Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you feel so overwhelmed, so constantly pulled in 1,000 different directions, trying to please everyone but yourself? It's like you're drowning in the noise of life. Stress, distractions, the constant pressure to be better, more successful. It burns, doesn't it? That feeling of never being enough, always chasing something outside of yourself that promises peace but never delivers. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You've been lied to about what self-care really means. Modern society has taught you that self-care is about pampering yourself, numbing the pain with short-lived pleasures. But the Stoics? They knew that real self-care is about strength, discipline, and resilience. True self-care isn't running away from discomfort. It's learning how to face it with courage and wisdom, and that's what we're diving into today. If you're ready to challenge everything you thought you knew about self-care and embrace a path of true strength, consider subscribing. It's about taking the first step toward transforming yourself. Let's begin. 1. Morning reflection. Start your day with clarity. We've all been there. Waking up groggy and immediately grabbing our phones to check notifications, emails, and news updates. It's like we're immediately pulled into the chaos of the outside world, and within minutes, the peace of the morning vanishes. Your mind starts racing, your to-do list is on full blast, and before you've even had a chance to breathe, your day is already in motion. Sound familiar? This is how most of us start our days, allowing the noise of the world to hijack our minds before we've even had a chance to set our own intentions. But what if there was a better way? The Stoics understood something fundamental about the way we approach each day. They recognized that the morning is more than just the beginning of a new 24 hours. It's a sacred moment to prepare your mind, to reclaim your peace, and to set the tone for everything that follows. Marcus Aurelius made it a practice every morning to sit in quiet reflection. He would remind himself that the people he would interact with throughout the day could be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest. And yet, instead of being dragged down by these inevitable challenges, he would choose to face them with patience, resilience, and clarity. Now, imagine starting your day with that same intention, that same awareness. Rather than letting the chaos of the world dictate your mood, you take a moment to center yourself and decide how you'll respond. The Stoics understood that you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react. That's what morning reflection is all about. Grounding yourself in your own values before the world can push you around. This practice isn't about escaping reality, but about facing it with strength and focus. It's not hard to see why this matters. If you start your day in a rush, in reaction mode, you're more likely to carry that anxiety and chaos with you throughout the day. You might snap at someone when you're already on edge, or find yourself losing patience in situations that could have been handled calmly. But when you take those few minutes in the morning to set your mindset, to reflect on your values, your priorities, and your approach to the challenges ahead, you start your day from a place of calm control. You become the one driving the bus, not just a passenger tossed around by the first curve in the road. Try it tomorrow morning. Before you reach for your phone, take 5 minutes to reflect. Think about what's in your control and what isn't. Think about how you want to react when things get tough. And remind yourself, the obstacles in my path are not roadblocks. They are opportunities to practice patience, resilience, and clarity. In doing this, you're already winning your first battle of the day. And if you do this every morning, you'll start to see a shift in your ability to handle stress, make clearer decisions, and face life's challenges with the steady strength the Stoics championed. This morning reflection doesn't have to be long or complicated. It's simply about making the choice to take control of the start of your day and preparing yourself for whatever comes next. Marcus Aurelius didn't have the luxury of avoiding challenges. He ruled an empire, dealt with wars, betrayals, and personal turmoil. And yet he still found the time to center himself each day. If an emperor could do it, surely we can too. As you begin your day tomorrow, make the choice to give yourself those precious moments of quiet reflection. It's your opportunity to take control, to set your intentions, and to step into your day with clarity. When you can do that, you'll not only be more prepared for the chaos that life throws at you, but you'll also build a habit that makes your mind stronger and more resilient with each passing day. Starting the day with clarity is a gift you give yourself. It's a powerful practice that allows you to meet life on your terms rather than reacting mindlessly to whatever comes your way. So tomorrow morning, instead of jumping straight into the world's noise, take a moment to reconnect with yourself. It'll be one of the most impactful habits you can build. And the results? They'll ripple throughout your day, your week, and your life. 2. Saying no. Protect your time like a treasure. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with requests, demands, and expectations, it's easy to get caught in the trap of saying yes to everything. Maybe it's a friend who wants you to hang out when you'd rather stay home, or a colleague asking for help when you already have your own to-do list piling up. At first, it might seem like a small thing. One more yes to keep the peace, to be helpful, to avoid feeling guilty. But here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're unconsciously saying no to something far more important. Your own peace, your own time, your own mental well-being. It might sound harsh, but think about it. How often do you find yourself exhausted, mentally and physically, because you've said yes to one thing too many? The Stoics, particularly Seneca, understood this dynamic all too well. In his writings, he often cautioned that life is fleeting, and if we're not careful, we can waste it away by saying yes to things that don't align with our true values or bring us closer to our goals. He wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the time, we say yes out of fear. Fear of letting others down, fear of missing out, fear of appearing selfish. But in reality, each yes is a choice that can lead us further away from what we actually want and need. By agreeing to everything, we end up scattered and overwhelmed, losing sight of what truly matters to us. Think about how many times you've agreed to do something out of obligation rather than desire, only to find yourself feeling resentful or burnt out afterward. It's like giving away pieces of yourself without ever truly considering if it's worth it. And the problem is that once you give away your time, you can't get it back. The Stoics didn't just talk about self-care in terms of physical health or relaxation. They saw it as a matter of guarding your time and energy. They understood that saying no isn't about rejecting others, but about respecting yourself and your boundaries. By learning how to say no, you're actually saying yes to a life that reflects your values, your goals, and your peace of mind. It's important to recognize that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. In fact, it's one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you can practice. The idea is not to avoid helping others or being kind, but to make sure that the commitments you take on don't come at the cost of your well-being. You have the right to protect your time, just as you have the right to protect your peace. And when you do this consistently, it creates a sense of freedom. You stop being a slave to everyone else's agenda, and instead, you become the author of your own. Saying no is a form of taking control, and with that control comes empowerment. Think about how much energy you waste on things that don't truly matter. How much time do you spend doing things out of guilt or obligation, only to feel drained and unfulfilled afterward? Imagine instead if you started saying no to the things that deplete you and yes to the things that nurture your mind, body, and spirit. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional with your time. It's about protecting your energy so that when you do say yes, it's because you truly want to, not because you feel like you have to. A great practice is to check in with yourself before you say yes. Ask, is this something that truly aligns with my goals or values? Is this going to add something positive to my life, or is it just going to drain me? It's a simple question, but it can be incredibly powerful in helping you make decisions that honor your time and energy. And yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might worry about disappointing someone or feeling like you're letting them down. But here's the thing, by saying no to things that don't serve you, you're actually saying yes to your own well-being and long-term happiness. Seneca's reminder that life is short is more relevant than ever. Every day is an opportunity to make choices that shape the life you're building. By learning to say no to things that don't align with your values or goals, you're giving yourself the space to focus on what truly matters. You're choosing to invest in your growth, your peace, and your sense of purpose. And in doing so, you'll discover a level of mental clarity and peace that you might not even realize you've been missing. So the next time you feel pressured to say yes, pause and ask yourself, is this really worth my time? Protect your time like the precious resource it is. Say no when you need to. And as you do, you'll begin to see how much more space you create for what truly matters in your life. 3. Voluntary discomfort. Build strength through challenge. Comfort is something we all crave, especially in a world that constantly pushes us to go faster, do more, and be more. We're surrounded by conveniences, soft beds, quick meals, endless entertainment, and while these things may feel good in the moment, they don't build resilience. Think about it. When was the last time you grew stronger by staying in your comfort zone? The truth is, growth doesn't happen when things are easy. It happens when we challenge ourselves, when we face discomfort head-on, and when we push ourselves beyond the limits we think we have. This is where the Stoics got it right. They didn't just talk about enduring hardship. They understood the power of choosing it. Voluntary discomfort was one of the cornerstones of Stoic philosophy. It's the practice of intentionally placing yourself in situations that are uncomfortable or difficult in order to build strength, both physically and mentally. The Stoics didn't wait for hardship to come to them. They actively sought it out, understanding that by doing so, they were preparing themselves for the inevitable struggles of life. Now, this doesn't mean you need to start making your life unnecessarily difficult. It's not about punishing yourself, but the Stoics knew that true strength comes from stepping out of the comfortable bubble we create for ourselves. You don't grow by staying in the same easy routine day after day. Growth comes when you push your boundaries, when you face challenges that stretch you, even when you don't want to. You might be thinking, but why would I willingly choose discomfort when I could just stay comfortable? Well, the answer lies in the long-term benefits of that discomfort. When you push yourself to do things that are hard, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, you build resilience. You learn how to cope with stress, how to endure hardship, and how to keep going even when it feels tough. Take a moment and think about your life right now. Are you challenging yourself enough, or are you coasting through, avoiding the things that might push you to grow? This is where voluntary discomfort comes in. It's not about seeking out hardship for the sake of suffering. It's about choosing the kind of discomfort that builds you up. It could be waking up earlier to push yourself physically, skipping a meal to practice discipline, or putting yourself in an uncomfortable social situation to build confidence. These small challenges might feel hard at first, but the benefits compound over time. By deliberately embracing discomfort, you teach yourself that you're capable of more than you think. Carl Jung believed in the power of facing our shadow, the parts of ourselves that we avoid or try to hide from. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that's not easy. It requires us to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather leave buried. It's the same with voluntary discomfort. By choosing to face challenges, we begin to uncover the strength we didn't know we had. We grow into the people we are truly meant to be. And just like that, the discomfort transforms from something we fear into something we seek, because we begin to understand its role in our development. The Stoics weren't just preparing for temporary discomfort, they were preparing for life itself. Life isn't always going to be comfortable. We all face unexpected challenges, whether it's illness, financial stress, relationship issues, or the loss of something dear to us. These are the moments when the true value of voluntary discomfort becomes clear. The more we practice facing difficulty with a steady mind and calm heart, the better equipped we are when real hardship strikes. The Stoics saw discomfort not as something to fear, but as a tool for growth. By deliberately stepping into discomfort, we are preparing ourselves for the inevitable challenges of life. Think about it this way. When you choose to face discomfort, you're essentially training your mind and body to handle harder situations with grace. If you can endure the discomfort of a cold shower, for example, then when life throws something truly difficult your way, you'll have a mental framework to handle it. You won't crumble under pressure because you've already conditioned yourself to handle the hard stuff. The beauty of voluntary discomfort is that it's in your control. You get to decide when and how to challenge yourself. It could be as simple as choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator, or as difficult as running a marathon you never thought you could finish. These small acts of discomfort build mental toughness. They teach you that you are stronger than your excuses and fears, and in doing so, they shape your character. The discomfort doesn't need to be big. Start small. Take on challenges that feel just outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's committing to a workout routine or learning a new skill that scares you. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding or facing a fear that's been holding you back. The key is to consistently step outside the bubble of comfort you've created for yourself. It's these small, deliberate acts that compound into a life of resilience and strength. Resilience isn't about avoiding the hard stuff, it's about leaning into it. It's about knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you can handle it. You can adapt. You can grow. That's the power of voluntary discomfort. And as you make it a regular practice, you'll start to see a shift, not just in your physical strength, but in your mindset, your confidence, and your to navigate the ups and downs of life with a calm and steady presence. The Stoics believed that suffering was an inevitable part of life. They didn't shy away from this truth. Instead, they embraced it. By choosing discomfort, they knew they were strengthening their minds for the trials they would face. And while our struggles today may not be as extreme as theirs, the principle remains the same. Life will always present challenges, but if we prepare ourselves through voluntary discomfort, we can face those challenges with strength and dignity, just like the Stoics did. So, what will your discomfort look like today? What will you choose to challenge yourself with? Whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, voluntary discomfort is the key to building a resilient, unstoppable mind. Embrace it, and you'll soon find that the difficult moments in life no longer have the power to break you. Instead, there'll be opportunities for growth, strength, and transformation. 4. Journaling with brutal honesty. Face the truth about yourself. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get lost in the noise. Every day we're bombarded with distractions, social media, emails, work pressures, endless information, all pulling us away from the most important conversation we could be having, the one with ourselves. We're so busy trying to keep up with the world that we often avoid confronting the truth about who we really are. It's uncomfortable, right? The thought of really looking inward, of peeling back the layers and seeing our flaws, insecurities and mistakes can feel daunting. But here's the thing, growth doesn't happen in the comfort of avoidance. It happens when we're brutally honest with ourselves. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They believed that true self-improvement could only come when we faced the truth head-on, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it might be. Marcus Aurelius used journaling as a way to check in with himself daily. He didn't write to inspire others or to craft beautiful prose. He wrote to confront his own shortcomings, to remind himself of his values, and to get back on track. In his meditations, he was brutally honest about his flaws. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Instead, he faced his mistakes with the kind of honesty that many of us avoid. It's this raw, unflinching self-reflection that allowed him to grow and navigate his role as an emperor, despite the immense pressures and personal challenges he faced. This is where journaling comes in. Most people think of journaling as a space to express feelings or jot down positive affirmations. But Stoic journaling is different. It's about confronting the truth about yourself, about your behavior, your choices, and the way you interact with the world. It's about writing down the things that aren't easy to admit, the things you'd rather ignore. This isn't about being harsh or self-critical in a destructive way. It's about being real. The truth is, when you're able to sit down and honestly reflect on your actions, your intentions, and your patterns, you start to see the areas of your life that needs attention. We're all human, and that means we all have flaws. We all make mistakes. But the difference between those who grow and those who remain stagnant is their ability to confront those mistakes. It's easy to blame others or make excuses for why we did something, but Stoic journaling is about taking full responsibility for our actions, whether they were positive or negative. It's about looking at ourselves in the mirror without any filters. And let's be honest, it's uncomfortable. It's much easier to bury our heads in the sand, to distract ourselves with work, or to push away the difficult feelings. But by avoiding the truth, we're only delaying our own growth. Journaling with brutal honesty allows us to break down the walls we've built around our self-awareness. It forces us to be accountable for the choices we've made and the person we've become. It challenges us to ask, how did I handle that situation? Was I true to my values? Where did I fall short? And how can I improve? These are the kinds of questions that lead to real, lasting change. When you start writing about your flaws and your mistakes, you start to see them for what they really are: opportunities for growth, not signs of failure. Carl Jung spoke about the importance of confronting the shadow, those aspects of ourselves that we hide from the world and sometimes even from ourselves. He believed that true personal growth comes from integrating these hidden parts of our psyche rather than ignoring them. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." The path to becoming who we truly are requires us to take an honest look at ourselves, to acknowledge the parts we'd rather hide, and to work with them rather than against them. This is exactly what Stoic journaling helps us do. It's a practice that encourages us to face our shadow, to uncover the aspects of ourselves we've been avoiding, and to make peace with them. When we engage in brutal honesty through journaling, we also begin to break free from the illusion of perfection. In a world obsessed with success and flawless images, it's easy to get caught up in the pressure to appear perfect. Whether that's in the way we look, the way we perform at work, or how we present ourselves to others. But perfection isn't the goal. In fact, It's an illusion that holds us back from truly understanding who we are. By writing about our imperfections and acknowledging our mistakes, we liberate ourselves from the need to live up to unrealistic standards. We stop pretending to be something we're not, and we start embracing the messy, imperfect reality of being human. This process isn't just about identifying what's wrong with us, it's about finding a path to improvement. Once we've been honest with ourselves, we can take the next step, making a plan to be better. Journaling allows us to map out our goals, identify patterns in our behavior, and track our progress. It becomes a mirror that reflects not only where we are now, but where we want to go. With each entry, we create a roadmap for our personal growth, and over time, we begin to see how far we've come. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't require you to be perfect. In fact, embracing imperfection is what makes it powerful. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to impress anyone. He wrote to improve himself. His meditations weren't a public performance. They were private, raw reflections on his inner life. And that's the key to journaling with brutal honesty. It's for you and only you. It's a personal dialogue between you and your true self. No one else has to read it, and no one else has to approve of it. What matters is that you show up every day and confront the truth. As you start this journaling practice, you might feel resistance. You might want to avoid the uncomfortable truths that come up. But the Stoics would remind you that avoiding discomfort is a form of weakness, not strength. It's easier to distract yourself, but it's much more rewarding to face what's difficult. The more you write with honesty, the more you'll begin to see the shifts in your mindset and behavior. You'll start to recognize patterns you hadn't noticed before, and you'll feel empowered to make positive changes. Journaling isn't just about venting your frustrations or celebrating your victories. It's about becoming deeply acquainted with yourself. It's a tool for introspection, for understanding your motivations, and for uncovering the truth. By committing to this practice, you begin to build a relationship with yourself that is rooted in honesty, respect, and self-awareness. And when you do that, you unlock the potential for real transformation. So, how can you start? The next time you sit down to journal, don't shy away from the difficult truths. Don't hold back. Ask yourself the tough questions and write down whatever comes to mind, even if it's uncomfortable. Let the process of journaling become your personal mirror, where you can look at yourself without filters or excuses. Over time, you'll see that this practice doesn't just change your thoughts, it changes your life. Journaling with brutal honesty is an essential part of personal growth. It's the key to unlocking the parts of yourself that have been buried, hidden, or ignored. And through that honesty, you'll find the courage to become the person you were always meant to be. By confronting the truth about who you are, you create the space for who you're becoming. And that, my friend, is the path to true strength. 5. Negative visualization. Prepare for life's setbacks. We live in a world where optimism is often celebrated as the key to success and happiness. We're told that positive thinking is the path to a fulfilled life, that if we just visualize our goals with enough energy and confidence, everything will fall into place. But here's the problem. Life doesn't always go according to plan. No matter how much we wish it, there will always be setbacks. There will be failures, losses, and obstacles that we didn't see coming. It's inevitable. And while it's tempting to push these uncomfortable truths away, the Stoics had a different perspective. They didn't shy away from the possibility of failure. Instead, they faced it head-on. Negative visualization, a practice at the heart of Stoic philosophy, may sound counterintuitive, maybe even morbid at first. The idea of intentionally thinking about worst-case scenarios doesn't seem like it would be something that leads to a peaceful mind or a happy life. But it's not about inviting negativity into your life. It's about preparing your mind for the reality that things can and will go wrong. By visualizing failure, loss, or hardship, you build mental resilience. You teach yourself that you can handle adversity when it inevitably strikes. The Stoics didn't practice negative visualization to dwell in despair. They did it to strengthen their ability to face challenges without being overwhelmed by them. Life will always throw us curveballs, whether it's a sudden illness, a financial setback, the end of a relationship, or a career failure. The Stoics understood that it's not the event itself that causes the most damage. It's how we react to it. If we are mentally prepared for challenges, then when they do arrive, we won't be caught off guard. We'll already know how to handle them with grace and resilience. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I want to imagine the worst happening? Isn't that just going to make me feel bad? It's a valid concern, but negative visualization isn't about indulging in pessimism. It's about reframing your mindset so that setbacks don't paralyze you. When you imagine the worst-case scenarios, you allow yourself to emotionally prepare for them. If you've already accepted the possibility of failure, then you're less likely to be crushed when things don't go as expected. Instead of being swept up in shock or despair, you'll be able to respond with calm and clarity. Carl Jung taught us about the importance of confronting the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we tend to ignore or repress. According to Jung, true personal growth comes when we face those uncomfortable aspects of our lives and integrate them into our understanding of who we are. Negative visualization works in much the same way. It forces us to confront the reality of hardship and loss, something we often try to avoid. When we face these possibilities with honesty, we reduce their power over us. Instead of being afraid of what might happen, we make peace with the idea that adversity is a natural part of life. The power of negative visualization is that it helps us develop a sense of detachment from outcomes. Most of us get attached to the idea of success, to the notion that everything should go our way. But when we attach ourselves too tightly to an outcome, we set ourselves up for disappointment. By practicing negative visualization, we start to realize that no matter how much we wish for things to turn out perfectly, we cannot control every aspect of life. There's freedom in this realization. We stop expecting life to be smooth sailing, and instead, we begin to trust that we have the strength to weather whatever storms come our way. Imagine you're preparing for a big presentation at work. Instead of thinking, "I'm going to nail this, everything's going to go great," you take a moment to imagine the worst-case scenario. Maybe you fumble your words, forget your key points, or lose the attention of your audience. Instead of letting this thought make you anxious, you simply accept it as a possibility. You think through how you would handle it. Maybe you would laugh it off, regain your composure, and keep moving forward. By mentally rehearsing the worst, you're better equipped to handle the situation with calm when it occurs. You're no longer controlled by the fear of failure because you've already accepted it. In this way, negative visualization empowers you to act with resilience rather than being caught up in panic or regret. This approach isn't limited to just the big moments in life. It's about preparing yourself for the little setbacks too. Life is full of inconveniences. The car breaks down, you miss the bus, someone cancels plans last minute. These aren't catastrophic, but they can throw us off balance if we let them. The practice of negative visualization can be applied here as well. By imagining these small disruptions ahead of time, you teach yourself to remain unshaken when they happen. Instead of getting angry or frustrated, you'll have already accepted that things don't always go according to plan, and you'll be able to deal with them with ease. By practicing negative visualization regularly, you also begin to cultivate a deeper appreciation for what you have. If you take a moment each day to imagine losing the things you love, whether it's your health, your loved ones, or your work, you'll start to recognize just how valuable they are. This doesn't mean that you dwell on loss or live in fear of it. It means you develop gratitude for the present and a deeper awareness of the impermanence of life. When you learn to embrace the possibility of loss, you actually learn to value what you have even more. It shifts your perspective from one of fear to one of gratitude. The Stoics believed that preparing for adversity didn't make you pessimistic, it made you wise. Wisdom, after all, is the ability to see things clearly as they are, not as we wish them to be. Negative visualization is simply an exercise in wisdom. It's a reminder that life is uncertain, but we have the power to choose how we respond. When we mentally prepare for setbacks, we can face them with courage and grace instead of fear and shock. You don't need to spend hours imagining the worst. Just take a few minutes each day to think about what could go wrong and how you would respond. This practice doesn't make you a negative person. It makes you a resilient one. It helps you cultivate a mindset that isn't thrown off course by life's inevitable challenges. And when you practice this regularly, you begin to see that no matter what happens, you can handle it. In the end, negative visualization isn't about dwelling in negativity. It's about creating the mental space to face whatever life throws at you with strength and clarity. It's about accepting that setbacks will come, but knowing that you have the tools to navigate them. By practicing this Stoic habit, you prepare yourself for life's inevitable challenges, and in doing so, you free yourself from the fear of them. And when you're no longer afraid of what might happen, you can truly embrace life, knowing that you can handle anything with grace. 6. Emotional control. Master your reactions. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when we least expect it. Whether it's a colleague pushing your buttons, a delay that messes up your plans, or a situation that challenges your sense of control, it's easy to react emotionally. In fact, most of us do. When things don't go our way, anger, frustration, anxiety, these emotions rise to the surface. They feel natural, they feel justified, and in the moment, they can feel impossible to ignore. But what if I told you that the way you respond to these emotions could be the difference between feeling like you're constantly at the mercy of life's chaos and actually controlling your own peace? The Stoics believed that true strength lies in mastering your emotional responses. They didn't deny emotions or suggest that we suppress them. What they did teach was that we have the power to choose how we respond to those emotions. In other words, instead of letting your emotions dictate your actions, you can choose to take a step back, process those feelings, and decide how you want to act. This is emotional control, and it's something we could all benefit from learning. When life throws a difficult situation your way, it's natural to feel angry, hurt, or anxious. Those are human emotions, but the Stoics saw an opportunity in those emotions, an opportunity to grow. Rather than letting them control us, they encouraged us to use those moments as a chance to practice discipline and resilience. Emotional control isn't about avoiding feelings. It's about how we deal with them when they arise. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control the events that happen to us, we do have the power to control our reactions. Typically, we blame the external situation for how we feel. That person made me angry, or this situation made me stressed. But the Stoics remind us that we have a choice. The external world can only impact us as much as we allow it to. If we let every frustration, every disappointment, every perceived injustice take us down, we're essentially handing over our power. Instead, we can practice pausing before we react, checking in with ourselves, and deciding how we want to respond. The practice of emotional control doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill like any other that takes time to develop. It requires awareness of your emotions, a willingness to observe them without judgment, and the discipline to choose a different path. When you're in a tense situation, instead of reacting immediately, take a deep breath. Step back. Ask yourself, what do I want my response to be? By giving yourself that pause, you create space between stimulus and reaction, which allows you to respond with wisdom and clarity instead of impulse. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. The Stoics weren't about denying the feelings that come up. They were about handling those feelings in a healthy, constructive way. When you're angry, it's okay to feel angry. When you're frustrated, it's okay to acknowledge that frustration. What the Stoics taught us was to not let those emotions control us or make decisions for us. Instead of snapping back at someone when they upset you or spiraling into worry when things go wrong, you take a moment to breathe and then choose how to respond. It's in that space between the stimulus and the reaction that true power lies. In the modern world, emotional control is a rare skill. Most of us are taught to express our emotions freely, to let it all out. And while there's value in expressing yourself, there's also wisdom in learning to hold your emotions in balance. Emotional outbursts might feel cathartic in the moment, but they often lead to regret later. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague says something that frustrates you. Your immediate instinct might be to snap back or interrupt. But if you take a breath, if you choose not to react in anger, you give yourself the chance to think through your response. Maybe you'll choose to calmly explain your point of view, or maybe you'll let it go entirely, realizing that the situation doesn't need to escalate. What you're doing in that moment is practicing emotional control. You're not suppressing your anger, but you're choosing not to let it dictate your actions. And that's what the Stoics wanted us to learn, that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can always control how we react. This is where the real freedom lies. When you learn to master your emotional responses, you stop being a victim of your circumstances. Instead, you become the one in control. Carl Jung also understood the importance of mastering our inner world. He spoke of the need to integrate all parts of ourselves, the light and the dark, the positive and the negative. He said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." This is powerful because it reminds us that we are not defined by our emotions. We are not slaves to them. We have the power to choose who we become, regardless of what we've experienced. By practicing emotional control, we don't let our emotions become the story of who we are. We take charge of our narrative and shape it intentionally. One of the best ways to practice emotional control is to reflect on your emotions after a situation. When you've felt angry, anxious, or frustrated, take some time to write down your feelings. Ask yourself, what triggered that emotion? Was my reaction in line with who I want to be? If not, what could I have done differently? This process of reflection helps you learn more about your emotional triggers and gives you the tools to handle similar situations more effectively in the future. And let's not forget the power of perspective. When you're in the midst of a difficult situation, it's easy to feel like everything is falling apart. But the Stoics taught us to step back and see things from a wider angle. What is the bigger picture? Is this setback really as catastrophic as it feels in the moment? Oftentimes, when we zoom out, we realize that what we're facing isn't the end of the world. It's just another challenge, one that we can overcome with the right mindset. This ability to see beyond the immediate emotional reaction and understand that everything is temporary gives us strength. The Stoics knew that nothing lasts forever, not the good moments, and certainly not the bad ones. When you accept this truth, you start to develop an emotional resilience that doesn't depend on the world being perfect. Instead, you learn how to adapt to whatever comes your way, and you stay grounded in your inner peace. So how can you apply this to your own life? Start small. Notice when you're about to react emotionally. Take a pause. Ask yourself, how do I want to respond? Is my reaction serving me or making the situation worse? This is where emotional control starts, by creating space between feeling and action. With practice, this space grows longer, and your ability to choose your reactions becomes more automatic. Mastering emotional control is one of the most empowering things you can do. It gives you the ability to navigate life's challenges with grace, to make decisions from a place of calm, and to stay grounded no matter what comes your way. It's a lifelong practice, but every small step you take toward controlling your emotional responses brings you closer to the person you're capable of becoming, a person who is unshaken by life's turbulence, a person who holds the reins of their own destiny. 7. The dichotomy of control. Focus on what you can control. We've all been there. You wake up, start your day, and suddenly you're bombarded by worries. What if I mess up today? What if this situation goes wrong? What if people don't like me? It's overwhelming. Life seems like one big pile of things to worry about. But what if I told you that most of these things are completely out of your control? The truth is, we often spend so much time and energy on things that we can't change, and that drains us mentally, emotionally, and physically. The key to finding peace, and ultimately true self-care, lies in focusing on what we can control and letting go of everything else. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the idea of the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are within our control and some things are not. This concept, taught by ancient Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, emphasizes that our energy is better spent on managing the things we can change rather than stressing over things outside our reach. Imagine how different your day would be if you stopped worrying about everything beyond your control. What would it feel like to actually focus on the things that you can change? The Stoics were masters at understanding this distinction. They didn't waste their time agonizing over the uncontrollable events of life. Instead, they centered their attention on their responses, their attitudes, and their actions. They knew that while we can't control the weather, the traffic, or other people's opinions, we have complete control over how we react to them. And it's this realization that can completely transform the way we approach life. The world can throw anything at you, but it's your response to those challenges that determines the impact they have on your life. When you understand that your power lies not in controlling everything around you, but in how you choose to react, you can free yourself from unnecessary stress and anxiety. Think about a time when something went wrong. Maybe it was a work situation or a personal relationship. How did you respond? Did you get upset? Did you feel like you lost control? In that moment, it can be easy to spiral into frustration. But the truth is, that frustration doesn't change the situation. It only makes you feel worse. This is where the dichotomy of control becomes incredibly useful. It allows you to step back and ask yourself, what part of this can I control, and what do I need to let go of? Letting go of things you can't control doesn't mean you stop caring or that you become passive. It's actually a form of strength. By focusing only on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, you stop wasting your energy on the things that are out of your reach. This is the essence of true self-care. By redirecting your attention to your own thoughts and actions, you become more present, more focused, and more at peace with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to control everything around us. We think if we just work hard enough, stress enough, or manipulate the situation enough, we can make things go the way we want. But more often than not, this only leads to exhaustion and disappointment. Stoicism teaches us that instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, we should accept what we can't change and shift our focus to what we can control. The more we do this, the more inner peace we create. One of the most practical ways to apply the dichotomy of control in your life is to start by recognizing what you can control in any given situation. For example, let's say you're stuck in traffic. You can't control the other drivers, you can't control the traffic light, and you can't control the time it takes to get to your destination. But you can control how you respond. Instead of letting frustration take over, you can choose to take deep breaths, listen to something calming, or use the time to reflect. By focusing on what you can control, your own reaction, you turn the situation from a stressor into an opportunity for personal growth. This practice isn't just limited to moments of frustration, it's something you can apply to all areas of life. Think about your work, your relationships, your goals. How often do you get caught up in things that are beyond your control? Other people's opinions, things that haven't happened yet, or the outcome of a project? If you focus on doing your best, managing your own actions, and responding with intention, you'll notice a shift. You stop being at the mercy of external forces and start feeling empowered. Carl Jung spoke about the importance of self-awareness and self-mastery. He said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." This is a powerful reminder that we aren't defined by the events in our lives, but by how we choose to respond to them. It's the ultimate expression of the dichotomy of control. We can't control the things that happen to us, but we can control the way we grow from them, the lessons we learn, and the way we shape our future. Understanding the dichotomy of control also brings clarity in times of uncertainty. We all face situations where the outcome is unknown or out of our hands. Maybe it's a job interview, a personal decision, or a challenge in a relationship. The fear of uncertainty can be paralyzing, but when we focus on what we can control, how we prepare, how we show up, how we treat others, we take back our power. The outcome may still be uncertain, but the way we handle ourselves is entirely within our control, and that's where peace lies. This principle doesn't just apply to personal challenges, though. It's incredibly valuable in how we relate to others. Relationships are complicated, and it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to change or control another person's behavior. But the Stoics would tell us that our power lies in how we respond, not in changing others. When you focus on your own actions, your own values, and your own growth, you stop wasting energy on trying to manipulate or control other people. You can still be kind, patient, and compassionate, but you release the need to control how others behave. This frees you from frustration and allows you to build healthier, more balanced relationships. The more you practice focusing on what you can control, the more natural it becomes to let go of what you can't. It's a muscle you strengthen over time. You'll start to notice the unnecessary weight you carry. The stress, the frustration, the anxiety begin to fade. By redirecting your energy toward your thoughts, your actions, and your mindset, you not only gain a sense of control, but you also cultivate inner peace. The more you practice this, the less power external circumstances have over you. In a world that's constantly telling us to strive for more, achieve more, and control more, the Stoics remind us that true freedom comes from letting go. True strength is in knowing what's in our control and what's not. And the most powerful thing we can do is choose to focus on what we can change, ourselves. By mastering this art of focusing on what we can control, we reclaim our peace, our clarity, and our sense of purpose. So, the next time you're feeling overwhelmed, pause for a moment and reflect. What can I control here? What actions can I take, and how can I choose to respond? The more you practice this, the more you'll realize that you are the one who holds the power to shape your life. The Stoics knew this, and it's time we embraced it too. 8. living with virtue, the highest form of self-care. At the core of Stoic philosophy lies a truth that might seem simple at first, but when fully embraced, it can transform everything. Living with virtue is the highest form of self-care. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that self-care is about pampering yourself, treating yourself to a spa day, indulging in comfort food, or taking a break from your responsibilities. While those things can be nice in the moment, they don't offer lasting peace or true growth. The Stoics understood something deeper. True self-care comes from living with purpose, discipline, and virtue. It's about aligning your actions with your values, practicing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance every day. The Stoics didn't just talk about virtue, they lived it. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca didn't merely teach virtue, they embodied it, especially during the hardest moments of their lives. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, and betrayals, yet he still made virtue his guiding principle. Every decision he made, every challenge he faced, was filtered through his commitment to live virtuously. He didn't seek external success or pleasure, he sought to be a good person, and this commitment to virtue, not just as an idea but as a daily practice, allowed him to maintain peace and clarity even in the midst of chaos. For the Stoics, living virtuously was not about being perfect. It was about being intentional. Virtue was the compass that guided their choices, and it's the same compass that can guide us. They didn't shy away from hardship, and they certainly didn't avoid discomfort. Instead, they faced each challenge with the understanding that each moment offered an opportunity to practice virtue. For example, when faced with an uncomfortable situation or conflict, they didn't react out of anger or fear. They chose to act with wisdom and justice. In times of uncertainty or frustration, they focused on what was within their control and responded with courage and temperance. This is where the previous Stoic habits come in. Reflection, saying no, embracing discomfort, emotional control, and understanding the dichotomy of control are all tools that help us live virtuously. They provide us with the mental clarity and emotional strength to make decisions that align with our values. When we practice these habits, we're not just preparing ourselves for the external challenges we face. We're strengthening our character, shaping ourselves into the people we aspire to be. But why is living virtuously such a powerful form of self-care? In a world where external circumstances are often beyond our control, living with virtue offers us a sense of stability and peace that no material possession or fleeting pleasure can provide. Virtue doesn't depend on external validation. It doesn't rely on the ups and downs of our daily lives. When we align ourselves with virtue, we cultivate inner peace because we know that our actions are aligned with what is truly good. Living with virtue also helps us transcend the distractions of modern life. Everywhere we turn, we're faced with messages that tell us we need more possessions, more success, more recognition. But these things don't offer fulfillment. They only keep us chasing after something that is always just out of reach. The Stoics, however, understood that true contentment comes not from external achievements, but from living a life aligned with virtue. When we practice wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we stop looking outside ourselves for validation and instead find fulfillment in who we are and how we choose to act. Think about it. How much energy do you spend worrying about what others think of you, or trying to meet external expectations? The Stoics would encourage us to stop chasing approval and instead focus on living with integrity. By practicing virtue, we create a life that is meaningful, regardless of what others think or what happens in the world around us. This is why virtue is so powerful. It doesn't fade or disappear with time or circumstance. It's constant. It's always there, within you, guiding you forward. Living virtuously also requires a sense of personal responsibility. The Stoics understood that we are responsible for our actions, our thoughts, and our emotions. They didn't blame external circumstances for their unhappiness or struggles. Instead, they focused on how they responded to them. This is the essence of true self-care. It's not about escaping from difficulties, it's about facing them with a calm mind and a virtuous heart. By taking responsibility for our actions and responses, we regain our power and agency. We stop being at the mercy of life's unpredictable events, and instead, we become the creators of our own peace. So how can we start living with virtue today? It starts with small, daily practices. Every decision you make, whether it's how you respond to someone's criticism, how you handle a difficult situation, or how you spend your time, offers an opportunity to practice virtue. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be intentional. The more you align your actions with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the more naturally these virtues will become a part of who you are. Begin by reflecting on what matters most to you. What are the values you want to live by? Once you identify them, make a conscious effort to live them out. For instance, if wisdom is a value you want to cultivate, practice seeking knowledge and making thoughtful decisions. If justice matters to you, strive to treat others with fairness and respect. Every time you choose to act with virtue, you strengthen your character and deepen your sense of fulfillment. It's a process that takes time, but the more you practice, the more you'll see the transformation in your life. It's also important to remember that living virtuously doesn't mean avoiding challenges. On the contrary, challenges are opportunities to practice virtue in real life. The Stoics didn't shy away from adversity. They embraced it as a way to grow stronger. So, when faced with difficulty, instead of complaining or avoiding the situation, ask yourself, how can I respond with wisdom, courage, justice, or temperance? Every challenge becomes a stepping stone on your path toward becoming a better, more virtuous version of yourself. Living with virtue is the highest form of self-care because it's the only kind of care that truly lasts. It doesn't depend on fleeting pleasures or external circumstances. It depends on you. It's about taking ownership of your life, your actions, and your choices. By practicing virtue every day, you create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling, no matter what happens around you. The Stoics understood this, and so can we. The practice of virtue is not just a philosophy. It's a way of living that transforms who we are and how we experience the world. So, start today. Reflect on your values, make intentional choices, and remember that every step you take toward living with virtue is a step toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. The Stoics didn't wait for the perfect circumstances to practice virtue. They practiced it every day, in every situation, regardless of what life threw at them. If they could do it, so can you. This is the path to true self-care. This is the path to becoming the best version of yourself. 9. Self-discipline. Take responsibility for your life. We live in a world that often prioritizes comfort over responsibility, quick fixes over long-term growth. Self-care is often marketed as pampering yourself, treating yourself to a little indulgence to feel better in the moment. And while it's okay to treat yourself once in a while, the Stoics would argue that real self-care isn't about comfort. It's about taking responsibility for your life. It's about the discipline to show up for yourself, even when it's tough, and to live in a way that aligns with your values. In our daily lives, it's easy to let things slide. Procrastination, distractions, taking the easy route, these are temptations that we all face. But self-discipline is the opposite of that. It's the ability to make the hard choices, the ones that move us closer to the person we want to be, even when they're uncomfortable. It's about creating the life you want, not waiting for it to magically happen. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that true self-care is not about avoiding challenges or indulging in fleeting pleasures. It's about taking responsibility for our actions, thoughts, and choices. One of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy is the idea that we are responsible for our own lives, not just our successes or failures, but our habits, our mindset, and how we react to the world around us. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that he had the power to control his thoughts, actions, and responses. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the essence of self-discipline. It's understanding that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. We have the power to decide how we want to live, and that power starts with taking responsibility for ourselves. Self-discipline doesn't come easily. It's a muscle that needs to be trained. There will be days when you don't feel like doing the things you know you need to do. There will be times when the distractions and temptations are overwhelming. But here's where the magic of self-discipline happens. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. And the more you practice it, the stronger that muscle becomes. Epictetus put it this way: "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about that for a moment. We often think of freedom as the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want. But real freedom, according to the Stoics, comes from self-mastery. When you can control your impulses, your reactions, and your actions, you are truly free. You are no longer a slave to your desires or external circumstances. Instead, you are in control of your life, and that control comes from the discipline to stick to your values, even when it's hard. Let's take a look at how self-discipline shows up in everyday life. It's easy to give in to the urge to sleep in, to avoid the gym, to skip that work project you've been putting off. We all have those moments when we just want to take the easy way out, but real growth comes from pushing through those moments. It's about showing up, even when it feels easier to quit. Self-discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about making small, intentional choices every day that align with who you want to be. For example, if you value health, self-discipline means going for that run or hitting the gym even when you're tired. If you value growth, it means showing up to work with focus and dedication, even when the tasks seem overwhelming. If you value peace of mind, it means taking a moment to pause and reflect before reacting emotionally to a stressful situation. Every time you choose to practice self-discipline, you strengthen your character and move closer to living in alignment with your values. This doesn't mean you have to be hard on yourself or push yourself to extremes. Self-discipline isn't about self-punishment. It's about choosing the path that brings you closer to your best self, even when it's difficult. It's about knowing that the rewards of discipline, whether it's improved health, a stronger career, or greater emotional stability, are worth the effort. The Stoics didn't seek comfort. They sought virtue, and they understood that living virtuously requires discipline. Think of self-discipline as an act of self-love. When you take responsibility for your life, when you make choices that align with your values, you're showing up for yourself in the best way possible. It's easy to get lost in the noise of the world, to give in to the constant barrage of distractions and temptations. But when you choose to be disciplined, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your focus. You stop letting the world dictate how you live, and instead, you take charge of your life. Self-discipline is the key to becoming who you truly are. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up every day, doing the hard work, and moving closer to your true self. When you practice self-discipline, you stop being controlled by external forces or internal impulses. You start living from a place of clarity, purpose, and strength. But here's the thing, self-discipline isn't something that just happens on its own. It's something that requires effort, intention, and practice. It's easy to make excuses, to let yourself off the hook, to fall into the trap of believing that tomorrow will be the day you start. But the truth is, the more you put off taking responsibility, the harder it becomes. Self-discipline requires you to start now. It requires you to take small steps today that will add up over time. The good news is that every time you make the disciplined choice, it becomes easier. The more you practice it, the more natural it feels. It's like any skill, whether it's learning to play an instrument, working on a fitness goal, or improving your relationships, self-discipline builds momentum. Once you start showing up for yourself, once you start taking responsibility for your life, you'll start to see the rewards, and those rewards will keep you motivated to continue. Living with self-discipline also means acknowledging when you've strayed from your path. The Stoics weren't perfect. They made mistakes, just like we do. But what set them apart was their commitment to getting back on track. When they veered off course, they didn't beat themselves up. They simply returned to their practices, renewed their commitment to living virtuously, and kept moving forward. In our own lives, this means forgiving ourselves when we slip up and recommitting to our goals. It means showing ourselves the same compassion we would show a friend who is trying to improve. Self-discipline isn't about being harsh on yourself. It's about being kind enough to help yourself grow. So, what does all this look like in practice? It means choosing the hard thing, even when it's uncomfortable. It means showing up for yourself every day, even when you don't feel like it. It means saying no to things that don't align with your values, and yes to the things that will help you grow. It means taking responsibility for your life, your choices, and your future. And most importantly, it means doing all of this with patience, consistency, and love for yourself. Self-discipline is the foundation of a meaningful life. It's the path to growth, success, and peace of mind. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. And when you embrace it, you'll find that you have the power to create the life you want on your own terms. So, let's stop waiting for the perfect moment and start taking responsibility for the moment we're in. The time to act is now. 10. Practice gratitude. Appreciate what you have. It's easy to get caught up in the things we don't have or the problems we're facing. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need more money, more success, more things. It's easy to look around and feel like we're missing something. But here's the truth. The more we focus on what's lacking, the less we appreciate what we already have. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't just practice gratitude as a fleeting feeling of thankfulness. They saw it as a way to shift their perspective and stay grounded in the present moment. They knew that focusing on what's good in your life, not what's wrong, helps you build resilience, maintain inner peace, and truly appreciate the life you're living. Gratitude is a powerful tool, but it's also one that's often overlooked. We're quick to notice the negative, our setbacks, our mistakes, the things we wish were different. But gratitude has the power to transform that mindset. When we choose to focus on the positive aspects of our lives, no matter how small, it shifts our entire outlook. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by what we don't have, we start to feel thankful for what we do. And that shift in mindset doesn't just make us feel better. It can help us navigate even the most difficult times with clarity and strength. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you truly appreciated the simple things? The ability to walk outside, breathe in fresh air, or even just enjoy a quiet moment. Gratitude shifts our attention from what's wrong to what's right. It pulls us away from the noise and chaos of the world and brings us back to what matters most: our health, our relationships, and the small joys that make life meaningful. The Stoics practiced this daily, reminding themselves of the things they were grateful for, even in the face of adversity. Epictetus taught that it's not the things we don't have that bring us suffering, but our desire for what we don't have. He said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." When we're constantly chasing more money, more stuff, more recognition, we forget to appreciate what we already have. True wealth, according to the Stoics, comes from contentment with what's in front of us, not from the endless pursuit of more. Gratitude helps us realize that we already possess everything we need for a fulfilling life. It's about appreciating the present moment and finding joy in the simple, everyday things that we often overlook. Gratitude isn't just about feeling thankful when things are going well. It's about finding something to be grateful for, even in the toughest of times. Life isn't perfect, and there will always be challenges, setbacks, and moments of hardship. But even in those times, we have the power to choose our perspective. Instead of focusing on the negative, we can choose to focus on the lessons we're learning, the strength we're building, and the resilience we're cultivating. In those moments, gratitude becomes a powerful tool that helps us find meaning in the struggle. Take, for example, a difficult situation at work. It's easy to get frustrated, angry, or discouraged when things don't go the way we want them to. But if we practice gratitude, we can shift our focus from the frustration to the lessons we're learning. Maybe we're learning patience, communication, or problem solving. Maybe we're learning how to handle stress better or how to work more effectively with others. Gratitude doesn't ignore the difficulties we face. It helps us see them through a different lens, one that focuses on growth and learning rather than just the obstacles in front of us. This practice of shifting our focus can be applied to any area of life. Maybe it's a relationship that's going through a rough patch. Instead of fixating on the problems or the things that frustrate us, we can practice gratitude for the moments of connection, for the growth we've experienced together, or for the lessons we've learned along the way. Gratitude doesn't just change how we feel, it changes how we engage with the world. And here's the thing, gratitude is contagious. When we choose to focus on the positive, we inspire others to do the same. Imagine being around someone who's constantly complaining or focusing on what's wrong with their life. It drains your energy, right? Now imagine being around someone who consistently practices gratitude. They don't ignore the hard stuff, but they approach it with a sense of peace, acceptance, and appreciation. That energy is uplifting. It shifts the mood in the room and invites others to focus on the good things too. When we practice gratitude, we don't just improve our own lives, we improve the lives of those around us. Gratitude also plays a crucial role in our mental and emotional well-being. Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly experience greater levels of happiness, lower levels of stress, and better overall health. Gratitude shifts our brain chemistry, helping us release feel-good hormones like dopamine and serotonin. It also helps us rewire our brains to focus on the positive, which has a profound impact on our mood and outlook. The more we practice gratitude, the more natural it becomes to see the good in every situation, no matter how challenging. Gratitude plays a central role in this process of self-discovery. By focusing on what we already have and appreciating the present moment, we become more grounded, more aware, and more in tune with our true selves. When we stop chasing after what we think we need and start appreciating what we have, we come closer to understanding who we really are. Gratitude helps us shed the illusions and distractions that often cloud our vision, allowing us to embrace the richness of our own lives, exactly as they are. In a world that constantly pushes us to want more, to do more, and to be more, practicing gratitude is a revolutionary act. It's a choice to say, "I am enough, and I am grateful for everything I have right now." It's a decision to focus on the abundance in our lives rather than the lack, and it's a powerful tool for cultivating peace, contentment, and fulfillment. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't wait for circumstances to be perfect in order to feel gratitude. They practiced it every day, regardless of what was happening around them. So, how can we start practicing gratitude today? It's simple, really. Take a moment every day to reflect on what you're thankful for. It could be something small, like a good cup of coffee or a kind word from a friend, or something bigger, like your health, your family, or the opportunities in your life. The more you practice gratitude, the more you'll begin to see just how much you have to be thankful for. And the more you focus on the positive, the more it will grow. Gratitude isn't just about feeling thankful, it's about shifting your focus, shifting your mindset, and shifting your life. The Stoics practiced gratitude not as a fleeting emotion, but as a way of life. They knew that when you focus on what's good, you stop wasting energy on what's wrong, and in doing so, you build a foundation of peace, strength, and resilience that no challenge can shake. Gratitude is the lens through which we can see the world in its fullest, richest form. When we practice it, we find meaning in every moment, growth in every struggle, and joy in the simplest things. 11. Solitude. Recharge your inner battery. In today's fast-paced, always connected world, it's easy to forget what true solitude feels like. We're constantly surrounded by noise, social media, work emails, family obligations, endless notifications, and it's all too easy to get caught up in the chaos. But here's the thing. The Stoics understood something we've long forgotten. They knew that solitude is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. It's a chance to disconnect from the noise, recharge, and reconnect with our true selves. In fact, solitude is a practice that can help you regain clarity and perspective in a world that's constantly pulling you in different directions. How often do you find yourself surrounded by people or distractions without ever taking a moment to just be alone? It's easy to feel overwhelmed when there's always something demanding your attention. We think that to be successful or to be productive, we need to always be plugged in, always engaging with others. But the Stoics believed that true power comes from the ability to be alone with your thoughts, to reflect, and to recharge without the constant influence of external noise. Solitude offers the space to reflect on your life, to think deeply about where you're headed, and to connect with your own sense of purpose. When was the last time you took a moment to step away from everything and just think? No phone, no emails, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. In a world that constantly demands our attention, solitude offers the rare opportunity to recharge, to be present with ourselves, and to gain the clarity we often lack in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But how can you become who you truly are if you never spend time alone with yourself? Solitude isn't about escaping life. It's about embracing it on a deeper level. It's about reconnecting with your inner world, understanding your thoughts, your emotions, and your desires, free from external pressures. Only through solitude can you understand who you truly are and what you truly want out of life. When you make time for solitude, you create space for reflection. You give yourself the opportunity to think critically about your actions, your relationships, and your goals. Are you moving in the right direction? Are you staying true to your values? Are you living authentically, or are you simply reacting to what's happening around you? These are the kinds of questions that can only be answered in moments of solitude. It's in the quiet moments when the noise fades away that you begin to hear the answers to those deeper questions. But solitude doesn't have to be about long stretches of time spent alone in silence. It can be as simple as taking a walk in nature, sitting in a quiet room with your thoughts, or spending a few minutes at the start or end of your day in peaceful reflection. It's about carving out moments where you can disconnect from the external world and tune into your own mind. It's in these moments that clarity arises, and we begin to see things more clearly. Not just the external world, but our internal world as well. Epictetus spoke about the importance of self-reflection. He said, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." The only way to truly know who you are is through the quiet moments of solitude. It's about sitting with yourself, understanding your true feelings, and aligning your actions with your inner values. Without solitude, it's easy to get lost in the opinions of others and in the constant flow of information. But when we embrace solitude, we regain control over our thoughts and decisions. In addition to helping us reconnect with ourselves, solitude also allows us to recharge our emotional batteries. Think about how draining it can feel to constantly be around people or to be always available for others. Giving yourself permission to step back and be alone isn't selfish. It's necessary for your mental and emotional health. Just as our bodies need rest after physical exertion, our minds and emotions need rest from the constant input of the outside world. Solitude gives you that opportunity. It's a chance to restore your energy, find peace, and come back to the world with renewed strength and clarity. The truth is, we live in a society that doesn't value solitude enough. It's easy to feel guilty about taking time for ourselves, especially when there's always something else that demands our attention. But the Stoics would remind us that solitude is a form of self-care, a way of honoring our own well-being. It's not about isolating ourselves from the world. It's about creating the mental space to be our best selves when we do engage with the world. So, how can you begin to incorporate more solitude into your life? Start small. Set aside a few minutes each day to just be alone with your thoughts. You don't need to schedule hours of solitude right away. Just start with a few moments of quiet and see how it feels. You might be surprised at how much clarity and peace it brings. Whether it's in the morning, before the world gets noisy, or at night as you wind down, find moments that work for you to retreat inward. And when you're able to carve out that time, don't feel guilty about it. Recognize that it's a vital practice that strengthens your inner resilience. Solitude can also help you with your personal goals. When you're constantly surrounded by distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters to you. Solitude offers the space to realign yourself with your goals, to check in with your progress, and to ensure you're moving in the direction that feels right. It's in solitude that we gain the strength to face the challenges ahead and the clarity to stay on course. The Stoics didn't see solitude as something to fear or avoid. They embraced it as a powerful tool for growth, self-awareness, and peace. They understood that the noise of the world could cloud our judgment and prevent us from understanding ourselves. Solitude, on the other hand, clears the fog and allows us to see ourselves and the world around us with greater clarity. In a world that constantly pulls us in different directions, solitude is the refuge we need to center ourselves and remember who we truly are. As you move through your day, remember the power of solitude. Make time for it and see how it transforms your perspective. The more you practice it, the more grounded and centered you'll become. It's not about escaping the world. It's about reconnecting with yourself so that you can show up more fully and authentically in the world. Embrace solitude, and you'll find the peace and clarity that comes with knowing who you truly are. 12. Simplicity. Focus on what really matters. In a world that thrives on constant noise and distractions, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We are bombarded by messages, social media, demands, and expectations that constantly pull us in every direction. The result? A mind cluttered with information, a schedule overrun with obligations, and a life that feels like it's spinning out of control. But here's the truth. We've been conditioned to believe that more is better. More things, more achievements, more validation. Yet the Stoics had a radically different view. They understood the power of simplicity, the profound clarity that comes from stripping away the unnecessary and focusing on what truly matters. Simplicity, according to the Stoics, isn't just about having fewer possessions or cutting out excess. It's a mindset, a way of living that allows you to clear out the noise and focus on what's essential. By removing mental and physical clutter, you free up space for things that bring you peace, purpose, and fulfillment. The more we accumulate, whether it's material possessions, commitments, or even unproductive thoughts, the more distracted we become. We lose sight of our true goals, and our energy is spread thin, making it harder to focus on the things that genuinely matter. In practical terms, this means making intentional choices about how you spend your time and energy. What are the things that truly align with your values? What are the things that nourish your soul and contribute to your growth? These are the things that deserve your focus. Everything else, the noise, the clutter, the distractions, should be removed from your life. But that's easier said than done, right? We live in a society that thrives on busyness and complexity. We are taught that being busy equals being important, that the more we do, the more we achieve. But in reality, busyness often means we're just moving through life without direction or purpose. The Stoics weren't against work, achievement, or even possessions, but they knew that these things should never be the source of our happiness. Our happiness should come from our ability to live according to our values, to focus on what's truly important, and to eliminate distractions that lead us astray. The true challenge, then, is to simplify our lives, to focus on the things that truly matter and let go of everything else. This doesn't mean you have to live like a minimalist or give up everything you own. It means you take a hard look at your life and ask yourself, what's essential? What truly adds value to my life? For many of us, this is a difficult question to answer, especially when we're surrounded by societal pressures that push us to constantly accumulate and achieve. But the Stoic approach teaches us that fulfillment comes from within, not from external sources. It's about clearing the mental and physical clutter and creating space for things that truly align with who we are and what we want to become. Epictetus emphasized the importance of distinguishing between what we can control and what we can't. He taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we are caught in the whirlwind of distractions, it's easy to let external events control us. But by simplifying our lives, we regain control over our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. The more we focus on what truly matters, the less power external events have over us. Simplicity is a tool for mental clarity and emotional resilience. When you remove the unnecessary, you make room for peace, focus, and intentional action. One of the most powerful aspects of simplicity is how it directly contributes to our mental and emotional well-being. We often find ourselves overwhelmed by the clutter in our lives, physical possessions, endless tasks, the pressure to keep up with others. This mental overload leads to stress, anxiety, and a sense of being lost. But when we simplify, when we eliminate the distractions, we create space for clarity and peace. Simplicity allows us to breathe easier, think more clearly, and focus on what's truly important. This is where gratitude plays a crucial role. When we simplify our lives, we begin to appreciate the things we have instead of constantly wishing for more. The Stoics understood that true contentment comes from within, not from external possessions. When we stop chasing after the next shiny object and start appreciating what we already have, we begin to experience true peace. This is the essence of Stoic simplicity. It's not about deprivation, but about realigning our values and living with intention. Simplicity also allows us to be more present. In a world full of distractions, it's easy to lose ourselves in the noise. But when we simplify our surroundings and our mental landscape, we become more attuned to the present moment. We stop worrying about the future, lamenting the past, and start focusing on what's right in front of us. This is where true joy lies, not in the next achievement or possession, but in the simple act of being present and fully engaged in our lives. Of course, embracing simplicity doesn't mean that we stop striving for growth or achievement. It simply means that we focus our energy on the things that matter most and let go of the things that don't serve us. When we do this, we free ourselves from the constant pressure to perform and achieve for the sake of validation. Instead, we can focus on living authentically, according to our true values and desires. By clearing out the mental clutter, we create the space to cultivate what's truly important. In today's world, the pressure to keep up with others is overwhelming. Social media constantly tells us what we should want, what we should look like, and how we should be living. But the Stoic approach encourages us to ignore the noise and focus on what truly matters. By practicing simplicity, we make the deliberate choice to live our lives in a way that aligns with our true selves, not with the expectations of others. This doesn't mean abandoning ambition or achievement. It means prioritizing the things that bring us genuine fulfillment and peace, rather than chasing after empty success. The Stoic view of simplicity isn't about rejecting the world or retreating from life. It's about engaging with the world in a more focused and intentional way. It's about making deliberate choices that align with your values, clearing away the distractions that pull you in different directions, and living with clarity and purpose. When we simplify our lives, we return to what's truly important: our inner peace, our relationships, and our personal growth. As you reflect on the Stoic practice of simplicity, ask yourself, what in my life is adding unnecessary clutter? What can I remove or simplify to create more space for what truly matters? The answers might not come overnight, but the act of simplifying is a powerful step toward living a more focused, intentional, and fulfilling life. It's a practice that can lead to greater happiness, peace, and resilience, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. So take a step back, clear away the distractions, and start living a life that's focused on what truly matters. 13. Patience. Trust the process. In today's world, everything seems to move at lightning speed. We're constantly bombarded with the pressure to perform quickly, to achieve success now, to see results instantly. Whether it's through social media, work, or our personal goals, there's an overwhelming expectation that we should be able to achieve great things quickly. But the truth is, real growth doesn't happen overnight. It's something that takes time, effort, and, most importantly, patience. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that true self-care and ultimately true success comes not from rushing the process, but from trusting it, step by step, day by day. Think about the last time you were frustrated because things weren't happening fast enough. Maybe you've been working hard at something, whether it's learning a new skill, growing a business, or building a meaningful relationship, and you didn't see the immediate results you expected. It's easy to feel defeated or discouraged when progress feels slow, but this is where the Stoics offer us invaluable wisdom. They taught that progress is a slow, steady process. It's about the consistent effort you put in, day after day, even when the rewards seem distant. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about patience in his Meditations. He knew that the pressures of ruling an empire could make one feel the urgency of success at every turn, but he often reminded himself that success was not about rushing to the end. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This powerful statement teaches us that obstacles are not just roadblocks, they're opportunities for growth. Patience allows us to navigate those obstacles without frustration, knowing that overcoming them is part of the journey. In today's fast-paced world, we tend to forget that the process is just as important as the end goal. We focus so much on the destination, on the final result, that we forget to appreciate the steps that take us there. Patience is about trusting that each step, no matter how small, is moving us forward. It's the cumulative effect of consistent, focused effort that leads to true progress. This is the core of Stoic wisdom, recognizing that growth, whether personal or professional, is a journey, not a sprint. Becoming your true self, whether in terms of mental clarity, emotional growth, or personal development, is a gradual process. It's not about rushing to become something you think you should be. It's about unfolding naturally, step by step, with patience and self-awareness. This concept of becoming who you truly are is tied to trusting the process, knowing that each part of the journey is an essential part of growth. One of the reasons patience is so vital in the Stoic view of self-care is because it helps us avoid the traps of impatience and frustration. When we rush to see results, we often make poor decisions or lose sight of the bigger picture. Think about trying to grow a garden. If you constantly dig up the seeds to check if they're growing, you'll disturb the process. The same goes for personal growth. Patience teaches us to trust that what we plant today will bear fruit in time, as long as we keep nurturing it. We can't force the process to happen faster, and trying to do so often leads to burnout or disappointment. The modern world doesn't make it easy to be patient. Social media bombards us with success stories and instant gratification, creating a false sense of what's achievable in a short amount of time. We see other people's highlight reels, and we compare their progress to our own journey. But what we don't see is the time, effort, and patience behind those accomplishments. Everyone has their own pace, and comparing ourselves to others only creates unnecessary pressure. The Stoics remind us that the only person we need to compare ourselves to is the person we were yesterday. True growth, according to the Stoics, doesn't come from fast results. It comes from building habits, making small improvements, and trusting the process. Each day is an opportunity to take another step forward, no matter how small. Even on the days when you feel like you're not making progress, you are. It's the accumulation of those small efforts over time that leads to significant change. Patience allows us to stay the course and keep going, even when things feel slow or difficult. Epictetus reminded us of the importance of patience and persistence. He wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The freedom he speaks of is the freedom to take control of our own growth and to trust in the process, knowing that we have the power to shape our destiny with steady effort. Patience isn't about being passive. It's about being actively involved in your growth, staying committed even when the rewards are not immediate. In our personal lives, this idea of patience is just as important. Whether it's building stronger relationships, developing a healthier lifestyle, or learning new skills, the journey requires time. It's easy to feel discouraged when things aren't changing quickly, but remember that real transformation happens gradually. It's about being consistent, staying committed to the process, and trusting that the effort you put in today will pay off in the long run. Patience also plays a significant role in our emotional well-being. When things don't go as planned, It's easy to let frustration take over, but the Stoics teach us to approach life's setbacks with patience. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can take a step back, breathe, and remember that setbacks are part of the process. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and by approaching life with patience, we allow ourselves the space to process and learn from these challenges. Imagine how different your life would be if you approached every obstacle with patience, understanding that it's just another step toward your personal growth. Whether you're dealing with a difficult situation at work, struggling to maintain healthy habits, or facing challenges in your relationships, patience will help you handle those challenges with grace and clarity. It allows you to stay grounded, even when things aren't going the way you want them to. It's about accepting that the journey will have its ups and downs, but knowing that the end result will be worth it. In essence, patience is about having faith in yourself and the process. It's about trusting that every effort you make, no matter how small, is contributing to your growth. And even on the days when progress seems slow, remember that you are still moving forward. The Stoics didn't expect instant results. They knew that real success comes from years of patient, consistent effort. This is the key to self-care, trusting that the path you're on is leading you exactly where you need to go, and that every step is a valuable part of the journey. So, next time you feel frustrated by slow progress or feel the urge to rush ahead, take a moment to reflect. Remember the wisdom of the Stoics. Progress takes time, and patience is the key to unlocking true growth. Embrace the journey, trust the process, and know that every step you take brings you closer to the person you're meant to become. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about making steady progress, trusting that every effort counts, and knowing that the rewards will come when the time is right. 14. Acceptance. Let go of perfection. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to be perfect. From the way we look, to how we perform at work, to how we present ourselves online, there's this ever-present pressure to meet an ideal standard, one that never seems to be fully achievable. It's as though perfection is the goal, and anything less is simply not good enough. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The pursuit of perfection can actually hold us back. It can paralyze us, making us afraid to take action or put ourselves out there, because we fear that we won't meet our self-imposed expectations. In reality, striving for perfection often leads to frustration, self-doubt, and a constant sense of inadequacy. The Stoics, however, had a completely different view. They didn't see perfection as the ultimate goal, nor did they think it was something worth obsessing over. Instead, they believed in the power of acceptance, accepting ourselves as we are, accepting our circumstances, and accepting the inherent imperfections of life. To the Stoics, true freedom comes not from trying to control every detail or striving for an unattainable standard, but from embracing what is and doing our best within the present moment. The wisdom they offer can be revolutionary for anyone struggling with perfectionism or the constant pressure to get it right. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reflected on the importance of accepting what is beyond our control. In his Meditations, he said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates the Stoic attitude toward perfection. Instead of focusing on the idealized version of ourselves that we think we should be, we should focus on becoming the best version of ourselves right now. The Stoics didn't believe in waiting for the perfect moment or waiting until we're perfectly prepared. They believed in taking action now, in doing the best we can with the resources and abilities we have in the present moment. This mindset can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to let go of the heavy burden of perfectionism, the constant need to measure ourselves against unrealistic standards. The pursuit of perfection often leaves us stuck in analysis paralysis, unable to move forward because we're so focused on getting everything just right. But the Stoic approach teaches us that perfection is elusive and unimportant. What matters is progress, effort, and the ability to accept things as they are, without judgment. Perfectionism is often rooted in the fear of being judged, the fear that we won't be accepted as we are. But the truth is, it is only by accepting ourselves, imperfections and all, that we can truly grow and become who we are meant to be. By letting go of the idea of perfection, we open ourselves to the possibility of authenticity, of living in alignment with our true selves, rather than an idealized version of who we think we should be. Of course, this doesn't mean that we should stop striving for improvement. The Stoics never advocated for complacency. What they did encourage, however, was the acceptance of what is, coupled with the willingness to improve in the areas that truly matter. Acceptance isn't about giving up on growth. It's about freeing ourselves from the tyranny of perfectionism so that we can focus our energy on what truly matters, living a life aligned with our values, acting with integrity, and doing our best in every moment. One of the ways the Stoics practiced acceptance was through a deep understanding of what is within our control and what is not. In life, there will always be things beyond our control, external events, other people's actions, circumstances that we can't change. Perfectionism often arises when we try to control things that we simply cannot. The Stoics taught that true peace comes from letting go of the need to control everything and instead focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. This acceptance of our limits frees us from the constant struggle to make everything perfect, allowing us to approach life with a sense of calm and clarity. Seneca also stressed the importance of letting go of perfectionism. He warned against the trap of chasing perfection for its own sake, writing, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Chasing perfection can be a way of wasting time, endlessly striving for an ideal that will never be fully attained. Instead of wasting our time trying to be perfect, we can shift our focus to the things that truly matter, things that contribute to our personal growth, our relationships, and our sense of fulfillment. By accepting that perfection is an illusion, we can start to live more fully in the present moment, making the most of the time we have. The beauty of the Stoic approach to life is that it encourages us to focus on the journey, not just the destination. It's about making progress, not achieving perfection. When we accept ourselves as we are, imperfections and all, we are free to fully engage with life, to take risks, and to make mistakes without fear of failure. This acceptance opens the door to growth because it allows us to embrace the learning process rather than being paralyzed by the fear of not getting everything right. Every mistake becomes an opportunity to learn, every setback a chance to grow stronger. Imagine how different your life would be if you could let go of perfectionism. What would it feel like to embrace your imperfections, knowing that they are a natural part of who you are? What would it be like to stop comparing yourself to an idealized version of yourself and start accepting who you are in the present moment? This doesn't mean giving up on your goals or ambitions. It means releasing the pressure of trying to be perfect and instead focusing on doing your best right now with the resources you have. Living with acceptance allows you to approach life with more ease and less stress. It frees you from the constant cycle of self-criticism and allows you to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. The Stoics weren't concerned with achieving perfection. They were concerned with living virtuously, making intentional choices, and cultivating a mindset of acceptance and growth. This is the heart of self-care. Accepting who you are, where you are, and trusting that you are exactly where you need to be on your journey. Next time you feel the urge to strive for perfection, take a step back. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to control? Is this something that's within my power to change, or am I just chasing an ideal? Remember, progress doesn't come from perfection. It comes from consistent effort, from accepting what is, and from embracing the imperfections that make us human. The Stoics remind us that true growth comes not from striving to be perfect, but from trusting the process and accepting ourselves along the way. So let go of the need for perfection and embrace the beauty of being perfectly imperfect. 15. Service. Give back to others. Self-care is often seen as something personal, a way to focus inward, take care of our needs, and prioritize our well-being. But the Stoics taught us that true self-care isn't just about ourselves. It's about how we show up in the world, how we contribute to the greater good, and how we uplift those around us. It's a subtle but powerful shift in perspective. Self-care isn't selfish. It's actually deeply intertwined with our ability to serve others. When we serve, we nurture not only the lives of others, but our own as well. The act of giving back becomes an essential part of our own growth, and in doing so, we discover a more profound sense of fulfillment than we could ever find in self-indulgence alone. This idea goes against much of the messaging we see in modern culture, which often equates self-care with pampering, spa days, luxury vacations, and endless indulgence. While there's nothing wrong with taking time to rest and recharge, the Stoics understood that a truly meaningful life comes not from the pursuit of comfort, but from service. Seneca put it simply, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To be free in this context isn't just about avoiding the distractions of modern life. It's about the freedom that comes from living a life of purpose and contributing to something larger than yourself. True freedom lies in the ability to give, not just to take. When you help others, you not only enrich their lives, but you also enrich your own. The act of service connects us to the world and provides a sense of meaning that is far more fulfilling than any momentary pleasure. You don't have to be a philosopher or an emperor to understand this. We've all experienced moments when helping someone else, whether it's a friend, a stranger, or even someone we don't know well, left us with a sense of warmth and satisfaction that no amount of pampering could ever match. That feeling is a reflection of what the Stoics understood deeply. When we give to others, we are also strengthening ourselves. Helping someone through their struggles, offering support when needed, or even just being a listening ear can foster a deeper sense of connection and fulfillment than we might expect. Service isn't just a one-way street. It's a mutual exchange that elevates everyone involved. Becoming who we truly are involves not only understanding ourselves, but also recognizing our connection to others. It's about realizing that our personal growth isn't isolated from the well-being of those around us. When we serve others, we grow too. Service teaches us empathy, humility, and the importance of perspective. It reminds us that we are all part of a larger human story, and our individual lives gain meaning through the impact we have on others. The Stoics believed in what they called sympathia, the idea that everything in the universe is interconnected. They understood that in order to live a fulfilling life, we must act in harmony with the world around us. This doesn't mean being perfect or trying to fix everything, but it does mean being mindful of our actions and their ripple effects. By giving back to others, we align ourselves with this larger, interconnected whole. It's a reminder that our individual well-being is not separate from the well-being of others, and that true self-care involves caring for the world around us, not just ourselves. In a world where it's so easy to get lost in our own problems, the Stoics remind us that looking outside of ourselves, offering our time, energy and resources to others can be a powerful antidote to feelings of isolation, frustration, and meaninglessness. Helping others can remind us of the bigger picture. It shifts our focus from what's lacking in our own lives to what we can give, and in turn, enriches us more than we could ever anticipate. Even small acts of kindness, whether it's holding the door for someone, helping a colleague with a task, or offering emotional support, can have a profound impact on both the giver and the receiver. Marcus Aurelius, despite his power as a ruler, often emphasized the importance of service. In his Meditations he wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." This reminds us that, as individuals, we are part of a greater whole. Our actions matter not just for our own well-being, but for the collective well-being of society. We are all connected, and to live a meaningful, fulfilling life, we must contribute to the greater good. This doesn't require grand gestures. Even small contributions, like being kind, offering help, or simply listening, serve the larger purpose of enriching the lives of those around us. Living a life of service also teaches us humility. In a culture that often promotes the idea of getting ahead and self-advancement, the Stoics offer a refreshing counter-narrative. It's not about chasing success or recognition. It's about doing what's right for the right reasons without expecting anything in return. Service becomes a way to strip away the ego and connect with others on a deeper level. It reminds us that we don't have to be at the top to feel valuable. We are valuable because of the impact we make on others. You might be wondering how to integrate this idea of service into your daily life. It doesn't require a grand sacrifice or heroic deeds. It's about looking for opportunities to help in your everyday interactions. You can start by asking yourself how you can be of service today. Is there someone who needs help with a task? Could you offer a compliment to someone who's been struggling? Can you make a small positive impact in your community? These small actions, when practiced consistently, will not only enrich the lives of others, but they'll also deepen your own sense of purpose and fulfillment. At its core, service is about recognizing that we are all part of something larger than ourselves. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles, and that by helping others, we can also help ourselves. Whether we are offering support to a friend or contributing to a cause we believe in, service is an act of self-care that builds resilience, compassion, and connection. In this way, self-care is not just about nurturing ourselves, it's about nurturing the world around us. When we help others, we reinforce the interconnectedness of all beings, and in doing so, we find deeper meaning and satisfaction in our own lives. So, as you move through your day, remember that the simple act of service can be one of the most profound forms of self-care. It's not about perfection, it's about making the choice to show up for others, to be there when needed, and to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. This is the kind of self-care that goes beyond surface-level indulgence. It's about living with purpose, kindness, and a sense of responsibility for the collective good. In the end, when you give back to others, you not only transform their lives, but you also transform your own. Remember, true self-care isn't about pampering ourselves with fleeting comforts. It's about building a life rooted in purpose, service, and personal growth. When we serve others, we not only enrich their lives, but also deepen our own sense of fulfillment and meaning. Let go of the idea of perfection and embrace the beauty of being of service to those around you. As we close today's discussion, I invite you to reflect. How will you contribute to the greater good today? What small act of service can you offer that will make a lasting impact? Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. If this video resonated with you, check out the suggested video on the screen for more wisdom on living a life of purpose and strength. Take a deep breath, keep growing, and remember, true self-care starts with how you care for others. Until next time.